Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the MX Endurance Podcast, where we look at most things that are happening in the world of endurance sports. My name is Tim Ford, and I'm joined by the penultimate legend, the sexy shepherdess, sexiest voice in triathlon himself, James Bell. Welcome back, mate. How you going?
Good, mate. I'm back in the mobile recording studio, as you can see.
Looks like a wardrobe.
As my existing studio gets completely renovated. So as of next week, when you plug in, you'll see all big shiny flashy things happening back in the standard position. But this is temporary for the moment. But we're making it work, mate. Do you think your Wi-Fi is going to hold up?
I think my Wi-Fi will hold up. Yeah, I've had some technical challenges. Don't you love it? I went in to get a new modem, and people don't care about this, but I'm going to tell the story anyway. I've been on the same plan for like
Tim's
3
modem
years.
story. Great way to start.
Been on the same program with the same provider for like 3 years. Vodafone. I'm going to name it, Vodafone. I'm like, my modem's starting to have a few problems. So I thought, I'll just go in and get a new one, right? And I'm happy to like commit to a 2-year plan or whatever. I don't give a shit. I just want the modem. So I walk into the physical store because I tried to do it on the phone. It was on hold for 10 minutes. I went, fuck this. I'm just going to go to the store. I go into the store. They put a number in my phone, and then I had to sit in the store and call their help desk. So I do that, go through that whole process, and then they say, oh, so we can't just put you on you have to cancel the plan you're on and then re-sign up for a new version of the same plan. I'm like, okay, so if I do that, I want it seamless. Like, I don't want to not have internet. They're like, oh, there'll be like 2 to 4 hours. I'm like, okay, I can make that work. Here we are, a day later, no internet, and I look on my plan and that thing ain't there, and I go, yeah, they fucked something up. It's just so.
And this is why you're sitting in the store.
Yes, this is all in person. They can't do it.
Even the
guy that I'm talking to in the store as well, he's just like, I don't get it. It shouldn't be this way. I'm like, yeah, it really, really shouldn't be this way. Actually,
no.
This is madness.
Isn't the Wi-Fi in Australia shit anyway? Isn't that a thing?
Yeah, they've already said that. I don't think it's as bad as everybody says. They're like, I'm on this normally, except for right now. Normally, I'm on the like ultra fast thing, and so I have no problems at all. The issue I was having is I just couldn't access Google Drive this week. It could just kept going, offline. And
that's an annoyance.
Yeah, and I'd hotspot my phone.
Not being able to get into Google Drive is a fucker.
Especially as that's where I do all my work. That's
what I mean. It would remove all of my work from me for a moment.
Yeah. So it was that was fun. But again, as I said, there you go, guys. That's Tim's modem story. You're in France, mate. You've been doing some running? You've been doing some training?
Yeah, bits and pieces. I'm still getting over this cold. It's been a real savage. I mentioned the cold last week.
I just think it's every week, to be honest.
I'm still climbing out of that fucking valley, but no, I'm good. Because slight knee twinges when I run now, but first 10 minutes it kind of happens, then it sort of disappears. So it's probably not a good thing. But I'm just running through it and hoping for the best.
Do you know what would help with do you know what's really good for knee problems, James? Like a really good cross-training method to help strengthen the knees.
Are you going to tell me I should ride my bike?
Yeah, right. Bike riding, mate. Bike riding is amazing for that.
I think it's because I've been ill and I haven't been doing my weightlifting, which is a lot of my stretching comes from lifting weights. So I've been neglecting my flexibility, which I think is the issue.
I do flexibility training every day, mate. I do my stretches.
Of course you do.
My mobility is very good.
Coach's pet, isn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. I 4 weeks since my cortisone injection, and everybody said, "Oh, after 4 weeks, you're going to be back. You're going to be worse." And I'm better. I'm much better. I actually did. I did a back-to-back run day this week, and it was good as gold. So
still walking.
Yeah, still. I did. What was the longest I did on Monday? I did 10 minutes, 2 minutes. No, is that right? And then this weekend I'm going to go up to 15 minutes, continuous running and stuff. But I'm doing probably 4 runs a week now of about, including walking, like 12 or 13K. So
that's pretty good.
Volume's starting to come back, which is nice. Bike riding the house down, actually. I'm good on the bike at them. It's nice. Swim's a bit shit, but
but swimming is shit, isn't it? Aren't you just bored of swimming now? Now you're in your sort of, aren't you just like, oh, fuck this shit, going to a swimming pool, getting changed, getting wet, swimming up and down, getting dry, getting changed again. Fuck all that.
I don't know if you have this problem. This is probably, our Australian listeners are going to understand what I'm talking about here. But it is actually the worst fucking time of year for swimming in Australia. Or it's nearly over. But school starts again at the end of January, and then the whole of February, it is so hard to swim in Australia because all the pools have swimming carnivals. So all the schools go and they do.
What's a swimming carnival?
So the school meets for the swimming, like the swimming.
Oh, right, okay.
you know, like the competition, the swimming competition for the
Okay, yeah,
school.
yeah.
And every day, it's just like I've got that many different pools that I can go to. So every day, if I need to go to the pool, I'm like, okay, is this pool available? Nope. Is this pool available? Oh, it is at 3. That one's available. It's honestly like, you know, you imagine one of those people sitting there with like 12 screens up,
Well,
trying to work
to
out
be
which
honest,
pool to swim in.
what you're explaining right now is that's like swimming in the UK year round. You know,
Really?
every single pool in the UK is like, yeah, we allow lane swimming, but it's only for half an hour on the first Wednesday of every month. It's like, for fuck's sake. All right. It's
Jesus.
honestly, it's like a Rubik's Cube trying to swim over here.
Oh, well, there's the pool that I normally swim at. It's at the Olympic pool in Sydney, and it's the reason I tend to go there. It's not the best pool, but they've got a competition pool, and then they've got a training pool. So they've got 2 50-meter pools, and the training pool's basically year round. You can access it, but at 3 o'clock on the dot, they bring up the barrier, so it's 25 instead of 50. So you need to be aware of that. But the challenge you have is people seem to not understand the slow, medium, fast lane idea. And again,
I think that's a global issue, isn't it?
oh, I am by no means I am not a fast swimmer, but I'm, you know, I do my hundreds. I don't know, 115, 117 seconds per 100 if I'm doing hard hundreds. So I'll be this. Yesterday I had to do a set of 10 100s with 15 seconds rest, all max effort. So I'm probably coming in on 118s by the end of it, and you're like 7 in, absolutely dying, like just you don't. And somebody just jumps in the fast lane and is like
Breaststroke.
hopping, not even breaststroke, like sort of walk hopping up the lane at like I would, and I'm like, you don't see them. It's like, are you fucking? What is it? I don't understand what's happening here. You've got all these lanes. You can see the one guy in the lane failing to swim super fast, and you're like, I'll hop in with that guy, and not only that, I'll get in his way. And then they see you about to push, and then they go, and you're like, are you? What the fuck?
Mate, I made a grown man cry once in a swimming pool. I'm not very
Tell
proud
me this
of it,
story. Come on, I want to hear this.
This was deep when I was quite ill, and they had me on some fairly strong steroids, and I was the same thing happened. I was in the fast lane doing my thing. This was when I was training hard, and and he got in my way, and we had words. I think I was a bit aggressive.
I love it. I get it. It pisses me off. It's like it's a real pet hate of mine. It's like real. You know what? I'm even okay with people getting in the lane. You know, if they have the, God, I sound like such a prick right now, don't I? But it's like I'm happy to share a lane with people, but just don't push off. If you see me come in and I'm about to turn.
Oh, mate, that's the worst. That's the worst. It's like time it differently.
Wait 2 seconds. Wait
2 seconds. You've just pushed off as I'm about to turn.
Well, you see, I do that to people when I know I'm faster than them. If I see some person, you know, breaststroking along, doing their thing, I'm like, well, I'll push off because I'm significantly faster, so I'll push off to maximize my time, so I don't catch you again, sort of thing.
They push off to minimize the time.
You see, my head always goes, and it's again, I must sound like the biggest fuckwit at the pool, but I always think that if somebody does that to me, it's like them going, well, I'm faster than this guy. And it then makes me like motivated to swim harder, to be like, fuck you, thinking you're gonna do the dominating push off the wall just before me trick. Like, no, that ain't happening. But God, no, I think that there's probably a few of our listeners who are sitting there listening, going, yeah, I've had similar frustrations. Or if you're listening and if you do the push off before, stop it.
Yeah,
bad swimmer, bad triathlete.
I mean, I'm not a swimmer right now, and I can't be asked with the whole process. So no, you're not getting in my way anymore. So carry on.
Jimbo, something happened last week. Something happened last week, and I need to make a public statement. I'm going to do one of those social media things where I look down the camera and get very serious. And
are we going to get an apology now for something? Have you been caught doing something?
I want to apologize. Absolutely not. Last week, we spoke about the fact that one of our listeners, our dear listeners, one of our valued listeners, Fernanda de la Vega, who maybe was a little bit too obsessed with the activities and lack of activities of a Mr. Christian Blumenfeld, who suggested that maybe he's got sick or injured or something's wrong, and I maybe made her sound like a bit of a stalker. Well, it turns out that her stalking was correct because Christian has withdrawn from Abu Dhabi, and I think I messaged her to be like, because she was like, you made me sound like a crazy person on the podcast. I said that was kind of the intention, but it turns out she was right.
So I mean, look, just because you're right Doesn't mean you're not crazy. I mean, the process you took, the journey you took to being right was that of a slightly crazy person, but you ended up being correct anyway.
It paid off. And then I think I put up a tweet yesterday, and I was like, I actually can't believe we were right about this. Like we were saying like as a bit of a joke or whatever. Like shit, he's actually out. And then somebody goes, actually, you just have to look at his Strava to see that he hasn't done any activity for 4 days. And I'm like,
Actually,
that's exactly what we fucking said. You stupid idiot. What the fuck is this? Like, I love that. Actually, you've done. It's like, no, you're right. That's exactly.
yeah.
I fucking don't you love social media where they just like yell at. It's like, anyway.
Oh yeah.
We'll talk about Christian a little bit later, but Fernanda, you've heard it here first. You're a very valuable listener, and you do the Lord's work behind the scenes to find out this stuff for us. So thank you very much.
Yeah,
Mate,
she probably knows all his coffee stops as well, doesn't she? She's that's managing Strava that closely, or knows all his coffee stops, knows when he trains, when he doesn't.
Just pops up.
Time,
pops up. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but maybe we should bring her on as like our roving Christian reporter. So she just like 2 seconds with Fernando, and he's like, he's doing everything. He's like, right, it's ever athlete. We love him. Settle down. Stop it. I noticed that I've somehow made her sound even worse than I did at the start, where I was trying to apologize for calling her a stalker.
I mean, just her stalking is useful. So carry on,
mate. We got plenty of races to talk about this weekend. Plenty of races that happened. Plenty of races that maybe surprised me a little bit, and then races that are coming up. And I want to start this week in Montreal, inside the arena at the Super League Triathlon Arena Games. James Bale, what do you think about the Arena Games?
I loved it. I mean, I think we've done to death our comments on how we wish they had a more full-bodied field in terms of names. So I think we can probably leave that and talk about the events as they transpired. Now, I love this event. I do. I really do. I think it's fantastic racing. I think the Arena Games format is captivating. And you know, on the women's side, I think my pick, Gina Serrano, won.
Mm-hmm. She did very well.
I know
she was exceptional.
I know she won because she was. I mean, she was head and shoulders above the rest from the initial stages of the race, and then went on to dominate in the final. On the men's side, Chase McQueen, who is actually Gina Serrano's boyfriend,
partner, I knew that.
May have won the day, but there was only one man that won everyone's hearts, wasn't there, on that day?
I mean, I may be a little bit biased, but I think there was maybe 2. But no,
I know what you were going to say.
The Lionel did. Fuck, mate. Again, God, he was good. Like he made that race so fucking entertaining. You know, I think when you look at Lionel Sanders, we always talk about his ability to suffer. You know, he's greater than anybody's. Again, I'd say maybe him and Christian are comparable, but having him do it on Zwift that way and actually see, you know, we've seen the videos of him crying on the trainer and like, we know how hard he pushes himself, but to actually have that camera on the guy while he's pushing over 6 watts per kilo, riding his way to the front of the race, I was just going, this is fucking cool. This is getting me actually like, I was messaging.
Yeah, and it's sorry. No, I was going to say it's not just the in race that he got people talking about. It wasn't like just the events that transpired within the race. He was probably the only athlete that brought the hype going into it, brought the eyes going into it. He probably got more people watching than would be expected, and it was amazing to see what transpired, and for him to put that bike session in that he did that got him into the finals where he was pushing, what was it, 7 watts a kilogram?
Something crazy,
something crazy like that. We posted last week's link on Twitter, and one of our listeners, Mike Callahan, said, "Win, lose or draw, triathlon once again owes Lionel a beer," and that's a very appropriate comment, I think, for what he's brought to this event, because I loved it. He got himself into the final. He put himself in a position where, you know, he was only 50 minus 12, so 38 seconds behind the winner.
There's a point in the final where I legitimately thought he was going to get the podium. The way that he rode through the field in that second of the 3 races to on the bike, and then obviously dropped off on the swim. But knowing that it was just a swim bike a bike run to come, I was like, he could actually podium here. And I mean, ultimately he didn't, which again, I don't think diminishes his performance at all. But you're right. Like that even that pre-race video he did where he was sort of doing the sim session, and he did a thing in it where it was actually probably Talbot Cox who did it, but they had the graphic of Lionel swimming, and then they had like a Henry Schumann sort of showing the comparison. And it made me laugh so much that I actually filmed it and sent it to Henry. And I was like, mate, check this out. Like, how good is this?
It's the swim, isn't it? I mean, it goes to show how important it is. You know, it goes to show, in my mind, it underlines so many things that we've been saying, in the sense that you've got an athlete like Lionel Sanders who came to the sport quite late, you know, in terms of development as an athlete. He didn't swim when he was younger, so he had to learn to swim at a later age. It goes to show how these sort of athletes over time are going to be phased out. I'm not saying Lionel was phased out of this. He did really well. But as we advance through the ranks and we start to see the short course athletes going long, and we saw more of a professionalism on the long course side where people have been athletes from a much younger age, we're going to see less and less athletes being able to come to the sport, mid-20s, learn to swim, be competitive, because it was simply the swim really that let him down. I mean, if he was up there with the swim, he would have been up there in the front of the race racing for the win. It really goes to show how not swimming when you're younger makes such a difference now.
Oh, like you'd see to the second that they dive in, like he would instantly go behind. So that's what makes those bike and run performances so, in context, impressive. Just while you're talking though, it was making me think, and I know I don't want to go on about the field thing again because I think we did it to death last week, but I do want to pose a question to you, because we've seen, I'm sort of bringing in and again, I hope it doesn't lead to, I don't want to talk about this for 20 minutes, but we've seen a big push and a lot of conversation in the last couple of years with the PT and everything. It's all about getting the strongest athletes together to race. That's the secret to making these races exciting. We said in the lead up to this event that neither the men's or women's race really had the fields that we wanted to see. Yet I still found these races fucking exciting. So is it so much about having the names, or is it about the actual racing that makes this stuff entertaining? Because
the answer to that question in my mind, because yes, the racing is captivating if you watch it. Absolutely. What I would like to know is who watched it. I'd like to see the viewing figures compared to the years where they've had all the big names, see what the viewing figures are compared to this. Because, you know, yes, you and I, we're going to tune in anyway. We're going to watch this racing and we're going to enjoy it, because it doesn't really matter who's racing when you're watching racing as good as this. It depends on how many people they get to tune in, because I think that's the differentiator, isn't it? When you've got the big names, when you've got, like, in the UK, a Johnny Brownlee racing, or in New Zealand, what's he called? Hayden something?
Who?
Yeah, that's it. Who? Hayden who? When you got Hayden who racing?
Carl Smith.
You then you bring more eyes to an event like that. And I'd be very interested to see whether they had an increase or a drop in viewing figures, because you're quite right. It's the Super League Arena Games is the kind of race where if you get people to watch, they will enjoy it and they will come back. It's getting people to watch that's the question.
Now,
so I'd love to see those viewing figures side by side. I really would.
Yeah, no, I just, again, maybe the Lionel thing would have given it a boost that isn't a true reflection of that. But
because if I'm honest, if it wasn't for him racing, I'm not sure there'd be much chatter about this race going in.
No, yeah, 100%. Like that is an incredibly accurate statement. I mean, again, full disclosure, we didn't mean to go off on that thing we went on last week about that. We had it in the notes, and before we were recording, and I was like, I don't really have a lot to say about. Like, I don't really have a lot of. You know, but again, we basically. Anyway, Henry Schumann as well. I just want to give Henry a bit of a shout out. Anybody who, like, again, one of the nicest guys in the sport, one of the hardest working athletes out there, has had the shittest 2 years. See Henry come back and have that second place was fantastic. It shows that he's on the right path. And I mean, we've talked a lot about Lionel. We've mentioned Henry, and we spoke about Gina Serena. Like, let's talk about McElroy, the winner. Again, you know, basically similar to Gina Serena, sort of won by quite a way in the end. Very, very fantastic racing. And then Jack Stanton Stock, this British guy that I'd literally never heard of before.
McElroy?
Mm-hmm.
Chase McQueen.
Chase, was it? Why have I written McElroy down?
I thought you were suddenly talking about golf.
Yeah, it's true. Sorry, you're right. My bad. I should probably edit that out later. I won't. Yeah, Chase McQueen. God, where the fuck did I get Mac? It's in my note. I've had a stroke when I was again. I do the notes at like 5:30 on a Friday. Sorry, Chase McQueen. That was a bad one. Yeah, and fantastic. But yeah, Jack Stanton stock as well. I thought man, again, that run where he ran through, I have to be honest, I was kind of questioning whether the sensor on his treadmill was right when he sort of just was running 24 kilometers an hour at one point and put 10 seconds into Chase McQueen and Henry in 1 kilometer. But again, made the racing really, really exciting and, sort of blew to pieces at the end. So it was good stuff.
I mean, I'd like to make a comparison between the men's and the women's side because we didn't have many names in the women's race, and Gina Serrano won really dominantly. I mean, it takes up to 7th place on the men's side for there to be more than a minute gap between the athletes, and that happens, between first and third on the women's side. So I think they need to tighten that up a little bit and do whatever they need to do to get a more competitive field on the women's side of things.
You see, that leads though. Maybe this is a good segue, and I am sort of jumping around a little bit with how I sort of thought we were going to talk about things this week. But going through the notes or preparing for the episode this week, when I was looking at the fields because we've got 3 big races this weekend. There's probably more, but the 3 ones I found was IronMan South Africa, IronMan New Zealand. We've got the Abu Dhabi season opener, which will be happening around a couple of hours after this episode comes out. In particular, South Africa is the African Championship, one of the regional championship races. The women's field, I saw 2 names of athletes that I think of really, Vanilla Langridge and Laura Phillip.
That's it.
I'm in New Zealand.
If I'm honest, on the women's side in the South African race that I've got as competitors.
Same. And then I look at I'm in New Zealand.
And out of those 2, I see Laura Phillip dominating. Are we talking about that race now? Is that what we've moved to?
No. I want to talk about this. What you're talking about the women's field thing, because again, and then I look at I'm in New Zealand. Same thing. The men's field: Braden Curry, Sebastian Keenley, Cam Brown, Mike Phillips, Jan van Berkel. Women's race. It's the same people. It's the same couple of Kiwi, Rebecca Clark-Elsvizer,
Hannah Berry.
It's just these again. It's the same sort of things, and I wonder. Is this a part of? Is this thing we talk about where people are going to start prioritizing the PTO events and things like that? Is it the timing of the year? Are there not athletes out there who are thinking, well, I'm not going to be able to win the women's Kona race later this year, but fuck, I could go get that African Championship? Or is it because they see Laura Phillip on the start list and think they can't beat her? Like, what is it that is meaning that these women's fields are just shallow? Or I don't know. I'm not trying to sound unfair, but there's something.
No, I think we're probably seeing a prioritization later in the season, aren't we? I mean, I think you're probably going to see less of the weighted heavy early season races and more of a prioritization to some of the events we're going to see later in the year. That's what I assume. But also, some different athletes handle their seasons in different ways, and we might just be starting to see a different way of that playing out on the women's side slightly.
I think what the reason I'm a bit curious, I guess is the right way of saying it, is it also shows me that there's not a lot of new people coming up, because if you've got this new wave of female Ironman athlete coming through for 2023, to me, you'd probably be aiming for these early season races to try to secure your slot to Kona later in the year. We're not really seeing that. So again, I'm just like, is it a case of we don't have a lot of new women stepping up to the iron distance? Is it the locations? I mean, New Zealand and South Africa aren't exactly close to the major hubs of America and Europe. Yeah, maybe it is. But then plan the season better. Like not the athletes, but the race organizers. Like then make the races that are gonna be more. It's chicken egg a little bit, right?
In New Zealand, we've got 8 female pros racing in comparison to 14 male pros. That's half. That's half the pro field on the men's side is racing on the women's. So you're seeing less professional women tackle that race. But
if this trend continues, if this is what I mean, it's this chicken egg situation. Because if this lower in prize, like New Zealand's not a big prize money race. It's the second oldest Ironman in the country, in the world. Like it's a significant event. Prize money's dropping, which means less people want to do it. Less people do it, which means they go, we're going to lower the prize money. Like I don't know.
Yeah. And it's a long way to go. I mean, New Zealand it's a long way to go, especially if you're training for a European season later in the year. As we hit spring, then it's a long way to go, and it reverses your internal time clock, doesn't it? Just for that one race.
South Africa. Let's use South Africa as the other example then. Like, because you got some good name athletes on that start, the men's start, both start lists. But again, it's I wrote down Ali Brownlee, Leon Chevalier, Bradley Weiss, Matt Troutman, Cam Worth, Laura Phillip, Vanilla Langridge. Like again, there's a pretty significant imbalance there to me, and that's what I just go, what can be done to maybe increase I want to see that female race as stacked. Or isn't it?
I mean, we've got. I think it's another example of with other races later in the year offering better prize purses and also offering more enticing fields. It's another example of how Ironman aren't offering those prize purses, and it's going to start affecting their less significant early season races, because people are going to be like, why would I go and race Ironman New Zealand when I'm going to get more money if I hold my form for a bit later in the year to focus on the races that are going to bring me more of a return?
And the cost of getting New Zealand is probably very, very high compared to...
Exactly. I mean, I don't know what the prize purse is. We should know what the prize purse is in front of us, but
no, we shouldn't.
It's going to cost you. It's going to cost you a few grand to get there, isn't it? And stay and race. And if you don't podium, then you're probably not going to get that back.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about IronMan South Africa. Let's go into it, because we have the African Championships happening this weekend. As I sort of said, in the men's race on the start list, we've got Alistair Brownlee, Leon Chevalier, Bradley Weiss, Matt Troutman, Cam Worth. In the women's race, Laura Phillip and Fenella Langridge are the two major athletes of note. What do you think about this race coming up, mate?
You forgot Clément Mignon on the men's side as well.
Did I forget him or opt to leave him out?
Well, he's number 40. He's number 21 in the PTO rankings, isn't he? So, he's worth a shout. Look, I think this race on the men's side is interesting to see what Alistair Brownlee brings to the table. I'm always keen to see what he brings to the table. And as I said, maybe last week or the week before, I am desperate for him to have a season where it's not curtailed by injury or illness. I want to see what the man can do across a year. Leon Chevalier is an athlete I'm a big fan of, and I love a race that's got Cameron Worth in it just because of the bike power he brings. And when a man with the bike skills that he's got hits a course, it can make a difference. Even if he's not going to win it, then he can still dictate terms on the bike and make other athletes behave in a way that perhaps they wouldn't have done without that bike skill on the course in front of them or behind them or coming up past them, wherever he is. On the women's side, Laura Phillip and Fenella Langridge are probably the only ones of note. Phillip at number 8 in the PTO rankings and Langridge at 17. I think out of the two of them, Laura Phillip is, head and shoulders in my mind, likely to win. She started 2022 with back-to-back wins in Dubai and Krakow, and I just think she's an absolute champion in waiting. Her season last year was derailed with COVID, and then she got that penalty in Kona, didn't she? Yep. And she's, other than the places the Kona, she's won every other full distance Ironman that she's started.
Yeah. No,
so that's the way I see it.
No, I think Laura Phillip to me is, like, I don't want, it's like the heir apparent or whatever. Like, I really see Laura Phillip as the next big thing in female long course triathlon, especially. Like, she's, that 8:18, basically equaling Cressy's time last year. I know there's a lot of conversation around course length and things like that, but like, I really feel like similar to Alistair Brownlee a little bit. Like, if we can actually just see Laura Phillip have a really full, consistent year this year, by the time we get to Kona, she's one of those names. I mean, again, we're what, 6, 7, 8 months out right now, but she's one of the names that I'd be saying, that's one to watch. Again, shocking. I've gone out on a real limb there talking about Laura Phillip being a contender in Kona. Looking at the men's race, the thing that really interests me here, because you talked a lot about Cam Worth's bike power, which everybody knows is true. But again, let's look to Kona last year, where Leon Chevalier, who got a penalty for litter, and I think rode like 1 or 2 seconds slower than Cam. Like, Leon to me is, of everybody on that list. I mean, Alistair Brownlee. Leon Chevalier is the one I'm extremely curious to see what he does here, because I feel like he's on the precipice of a real breakout year. Like, you look at that Nice course. I said this to Leon not that long ago. Like, that Nice course to me, French athlete, French course, hilly with his bike power and everything. He could do really, really well there. And started the year now, because again, you were talking about, like, I actually think that this is a good sort of time to get that first Ironman for the year sort of in the legs and see where everything's at. Yeah, man, he's one to watch. He's my, like,
I agree. And I think an athlete like Leon Chevalier is it wouldn't surprise me if next week we were reporting that he'd won this, because Brownlee will either win it emphatically or he'll have a calf issue or an Achilles issue, or he'll walk the run or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think it will come down to a last kilometer race between him and Leon Chevalier or
Alistair
Clement
Brownlee wins
Mignon.
that. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. So I think Leon is a great athlete, and you're right about Cam Worth. Yes, he's a fantastic biker. Yes, he's riding as a pro biker at the same time. He brings all that bike power. 5 years ago, that bike skill would have absolutely dominated any field of triathletes. We're starting to see those differences close up now. We're starting to see the pro triathlon field starting to be able to match some of those pro bikers. So we're, like I said earlier about how when we're talking about Lionel, we're going to see less and less athletes taking up triathlon in their mid-20s and learning to swim and being able to just about hold on, and if they've got a good enough run and bike, they can still win it. We're going to see less and less pro bikers coming over who haven't got the swim and the run and being able to compete in the on the competitive ends of fields. I think.
I also
Hear me
think
now,
that
quote me later, Tim.
no, I think Cam Brown's interesting because I see Cam Brown pop up on all these start lists and I reckon he races about 50% of them. So I'm still not even convinced he's going to be there, to be honest. Like in the back of my head, no. I wouldn't be surprised. But like, yeah, Cam Brown didn't race. Alistair Brownlee. Now we have been very vocal on our thoughts about Alistair Brownlee being like, you know, one of the greatest of all time. And we keep saying on this show, when he gets this right, we think he's going to get it really right. Like again, I think he's probably the most naturally talented triathlete in the history of the sport. Like what he did at short course is for people who are casual, like it is, you can't put into words how much he changed short course triathlon. Like he forced Jan Frodeno to go long. Like he was so good. If we, again, I think his injury and everything that happened last year sort of had us going, is he done? Is he just going to go, I can't be fucked with this, walk away? To see him here, early season race, trying to get that slot for Nice, it actually shows that he's still really committed to this, which I love to see. Like I like the thought that this is just like that bit of sand in your eye, or you know, the pebble in your shoe or whatever. Alice is like, I just got to fucking get this right. I'm sick of this shit. I need to show everybody just how fucking good I am, so I can go to Nice and fucking dominate. Like, it's a very exciting prospect to me that this sort of frustrated Alistair Brownlee. I hope it doesn't get in the way. Like, I hope it doesn't lead to yet another injury because he pushes a little bit more where he shouldn't. But
yeah. In my mind, it's solely illness and injury related. You know, as you said, I mean, it's a big thing to say. He's one of the most naturally talented triathletes ever to see in the history of the sport. When you're sitting on a podcast, doing a podcast with one of the most naturally talented triathletes ever to grace the sport.
Well, I mean, you are so bright. It does make everything a little bit dimmer after looking at staring down the camera at you, mate.
But he in my mind, whether he has the year that, I don't think it's, we both know it's not a case of quality or talent. It's the only reason he hasn't come to the party quite as much as we thought he was going to is due to illness and injury. And that's why I'm so desperate to have that year free of illness and injury. I don't think we'll see the COVID issue again, because I think, you know, hopefully enough people in the world have had the vaccine now that we're going to see less of that being that COVID thing derailing races. But, you know, there are other illnesses and other injuries that he could get. And I just hope that what I don't want to see is him getting to the 10, 15K of a run and his calf going ping or his Achilles starting to hurt and him walking, because I've had enough of him seeing him do that, because he just looks so good when he runs, doesn't he?
Yeah, fucking oath he does.
Yeah.
And again, we're seeing a much more traditional year. I mean, it's not traditional because things have changed with Nice and Kona and stuff, but this isn't a year that has 2 Ironman World Championships, a sub-7, sub-8 project. Like, there's a lot less marquee long course events this year. So it really is, you know, Roth for some athletes, Nice, like it's that more traditional, less demand on the athlete this year. So I think we probably will hopefully start to see a little bit less of that rate of attrition.
And these PTO races, they are more, you know, I don't think, because they're sort of they're between the 70.3 and the Ironman, they're going to be
even shorter.
They're a bit shorter then. I keep making that mistake, don't I? That's the second time I've made that mistake this year. They're going to be a lot less demanding. It's like putting in a 70.3, you know, you can always put a 70.3 race down and recover in a few weeks and you're back to it. Ironman takes it out of you on a level that is different.
Now, mate, I sent you a message earlier, which had the list of broadcasted Ironman events. Are you able to pull that up? I did on Messenger, because I'm hotspotting my phone and I'm scared that if I try to open this thing, it's going to shit itself and we're going to lose the connection. But because I want to know if this race is one of the ones that's been broadcast. because
Oh
I'm
no,
actually very
I can tell you. I can tell you that neither IronMan South Africa nor IronMan New Zealand are going to be broadcast, and
interesting.
it's going to be down to the tracker to give
Really?
you your yeah. Let me just
Fuck.
double check that. Yeah, the broadcast schedule starts on April the 1st, so
There you go.
nothing in March at
Is
all. So, but any races you want to watch this weekend from Ironman, you'll have to go to the trusty old tracker to monitor.
close your eyes, visualize it happening. There you go,
Mm.
Alistair Brown.
It's a shame. It's a real shame because you'd think that they'd be like,
Regional
okay, well,
champs.
Alistair Brownie's racing, and Philip Mignon and sorry, Clement Mignon. Not
I feel like
Leo
is that his new nickname? Is that his, is we had we had Leo Shepherdess. We got Phil and you're vegetarian. That's even better. Filet mignon. Oh my god, that's amazing. That's his new nickname, Filet.
So yeah, unfortunately, we're going to be tracking these old school, which isn't fun. Shall we have a chat about New Zealand?
We should, but again, just quickly, what are your picks? I mean, Laura Phillip, pretty obvious in the men's race. Who are you picking?
Men, yeah, Laura Phillip on the women's side. In the men's race, I am going to pick Leon Chevalier.
God, I wanted to do the same thing, but I'll be different and go out on a huge limb here and go Alistair Brownlee then. I was actually thinking, yeah, Leon would be if you went Ali, I'd go Leon in a heartbeat. You beat me to it. God damn it, I should have gone first.
Yeah, I'm just intrigued to see how he goes, and I like him as an athlete. I got a real sort of a real love for the French triathletes. I think Vince Louis is one of my favorite men on the planet. I think he's great. I think Leon Chevalier is an amazing athlete, and old Philip, me and Philip, we get on well.
It's funny because I got to meet Leon in Kona last year when I was with Joe, and I didn't realize that he was French because he's one of those French guys who's got a pretty like Sam Laidlow, like proper, sounds like a pom. Yeah, compared to Vince, well, you're right. Vince is a fucking legend. I went go-karting with Vince in at the end of last year, and he's like just as competitive on a go-kart track as he is on a racetrack. But no, those French guys, I really feel like we're seeing this French revolution. That's a poor pun to use. But there's a lot of stuff happening in French triathlon at the moment, right? We've got the Olympics coming up next year. We've got Nice happening this year. Leo Bergier is the world champion. They've got athletes like Sam Laidlow, like Philae Mignon. I really like that. That's really funny. Leon Chevalier, Dorian Connix. They've got a really strong stable of athletes at the moment. Cassandra Beaugrand, Leonie Perriot. It's a good time. Like French triathlon's going off at the moment, and you love to see it. New Zealand.
Yeah. New Zealand taking place on Saturday, the 4th of March. It's swimming in Lake Taupo, with a 1 clockwise loop, and then off on the bike. What an adventure this will be! And again, it's part of Sebastian Kienle's sort of triumphant year of farewells, isn't it? So we get to see that man race again this weekend, and he must be loving it at the moment.
Have you ever been to Taupo? Or Taupo? Sorry, is the local
Yeah. I think I stayed in a hostel there many years ago, 2004. I think I stole all the bedding as I left because my car was a bit cold.
So there's a big sign when you go to Taupo. You don't probably realize this, and it's a big photo of your face being like wanted for linen theft. Yeah. Taupo is one of the best places on the planet to do a triathlon. It is one of my favorite race locations. I've done the 70.3 there 2 times in the past. I haven't been back for years, but Lake Taupo is the best body of water I've ever swum in a race in my entire life ever. It is crystal clear water, and I mean like glass, crystal clear. Fuck, it's a good spot for a race. Tough bike course. It's the roads in New Zealand are absolutely shithouse, so it's super rough. That super big chip, like rough surface, but honest. And then the run course along the
chip. What's big chip mean?
Like the big stones that they use. So it's basically like they put hot tar down, and then just these stones on top. So we call it sort of loose. I guess you call it loose chip.
Yeah,
So
worse road surface. Really, that is a road
correct.
surface.
The worst,
Yeah.
the actual worst road surface in existence possible. And then you run along the lake, which is fucking phenomenal. And the thing I love about Taupo is that the whole town froths over this event. We talked a lot in the last couple of months about how the locals have received Kona and they fucking hate it. New Zealand is the complete opposite. I mean, New Zealand hates cyclists, like most places in the world. Like I hate riding a bike in New Zealand most of the time because you cop so much abuse. But in Taupo, in the weeks leading up to this event, on the run course, people will just set up a table outside their house with drinks for the athletes that are out there training on the course. Like you'll just be out running, and there's just a thing of electrolytes on some random person's front lawn to help athletes out. Like that's how much they love this event. The whole town.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Mate, it is. I really, again, listeners, if you're listening,
I didn't realize
that
New Zealand was a place that gave cyclists shit. I didn't realize that.
Oh, mate.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's like comparable to Australia.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. The whole world's getting their way. Anyway, on the men's side, what we got? We got Braden Curry, Sebastian Kienle, Mike Phillips, Cameron Brown, Matt Burton, Jan van Berkel, Matt Kerr, Simon Cochran, Jason Christie, Lucas Dross, Scott Hairpin, Levi Howard, and Mike Tong. And on the women's side, we've got Hannah Berry, Rebecca Clark, Els Visser, Meredith Kessler, Jennifer Fletcher, Laura Armstrong, Ueda, and Laura Wood.
What was that last one?
So it's
sorry,
Laura Wood.
No, one before that.
No, I'm not sure I pronounced that correctly, so I won't go back to the well for further mocking.
It's Braden Curry for me. I think it's Braden Curry by quite a margin. Mike Phillips as well, very very good athlete. He's won this race a few times, I think.
All right. Well, I'm gonna. In terms of picks, I'm going down the. I'm going into the multiverse, mate. I'm gonna go for the dream finish of a perfect storm where there's a couple of DNFs, there's a couple of mechanicals, no DNFs with anyone getting hurt, just spirits blown by the legend Cameron Brown coming storming through the field to take a victory. That's what I want to see on the men's side, because it would bring a tear to everyone's eyes, wouldn't it?
It would be, I guess it would be comparable to having Meredith Kessler win it in the women's race too, because Meredith Kessler's won this event a whole heap of times. Yeah. And this has got to, she's getting to the twilight of her career as well. I think imagine if you had those two win, that fucking hell, that'd be incredible. I really think, as I said, I reckon we're probably going to see Sebi. Sebi could win it because he's Sebi. He's, Sebastian Kienle, one of the greatest. Braden Curry is so good in New Zealand, and he is actually just fucking good, like very, very good athlete. I would be surprised to see Braden not win it. I think it's almost Braden's to lose in a lot of ways.
If it wasn't Cameron Brown's last race, and I wasn't just being...
No, I get it. I understand.
I'd be remiss not to pick Braden Curry for the win. But
I still think Mike Phillips, mate. Mike Phillips is the other one that is just worth... Like Mike Phillips, a few years ago, he was that next Kiwi long course athlete that I was sort of expecting to see do big things. And I think we're sort of post-pandemic now. So it'll be interesting to sort of see where the cards fall. He was on the podium, I think, in Wanaka, I think off the top of my head a few weeks ago. Yeah, it'll be good. And then the women's race, I'm just going to go with Rebecca Clark because she's a friend of mine.
Yeah, and I'll go with Hannah Berry just because, like to be different, and she's a New Zealander.
Els Visser, again, I think we saw her in the sub-7, sub-8 last year. She was one of Nicola's paces, Dutch athlete. She's had some incredible results, clearly a good bike rider. She was one of the bike paces. I'm curious to see how she goes at this event. Again, it's a tough course, and that's sort of why I expect one of the Kiwis to probably do it, just because these people, like I know Rebecca, for example, has trained on this course for so long, for so many hours spent out on that course. And Bex, again, sort of like I said earlier about Leon Chevalier being on the precipice of a real breakthrough season. I think Bex is on the precipice of doing some pretty good stuff this year too. So it'll be exciting to see. But again, great to see IronMan New Zealand, as I said, the second
excited to see,
Ironman
but we can't see it. That's the problem, isn't it?
I know. We just have to rely on our roving reporters, and
it's only an hour or so from you by flight. Can't you just nip over with a video camera and get us all a bit of footage?
3 hours, mate, actually. Thank you. I'm actually trying to get to New Zealand.
Must just cost a tenner or something, isn't it?
I
How much
fucking
does it cost
wish.
to fly to New Zealand?
$1,000, maybe $1,500 return or something.
Really? I thought it
Yeah,
would be like a,
nope.
it's to fly from my local city to France. Let's say it's about £29.
Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you? You'd think that it would cost you, I don't know, $100 to fly from Sydney to Melbourne instead of $700 that it seems to be costing at the moment.
No
Because
fucking way.
Jesus Christ, mate, don't even. That's a rabbit hole I'm not interested in going down right now.
All right.
I'm trying to go to New Zealand in a couple of weeks because there's that World Cup event in New Plymouth, and I'd like to get over there for that because Tyler is racing. On short course racing, we've got a few little things. And while we're on Taupo, I guess, I would like to talk about the Oceania Cup that happened in Taupo last weekend, where we saw Gwen Jorgensen make her return to competitive or professional short course racing. And I believe it was the first time she has done one of these races since her gold medal in Rio in 2016. We saw that Gwen came third, and she was, I believe, 32 seconds behind the winner, Nicole van der Kay. We know that Gwen is pursuing a spot for Team USA at the Olympics next year. What do you think about her first race back?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a slightly lower tier race, but a comeback starts somewhere, doesn't it?
Yeah.
She's been away from the pointy end of racing for some time. She's had a focus elsewhere on marathon running, and then she had a family, and now she's coming back to triathlon. I love to see it. I want to see her progress. I'm excited to see her back at the pointy end, and I think she can do it. She's a phenomenon, and her results in 2016 show that. So I think there's plenty more to come there.
It's interesting how we see a lot of athletes over the years make I'm using air commas, like the comeback, and a lot of them we see, and you're like, come on now,
Oh, you
come
wait.
on now.
Give me 2 or 3 years, mate. I'll be making a comeback, and
Oh,
you'll be like,
mate,
oh,
that's probably the number one comeback I'm excited for.
it's probably
But
isn't it? Yeah, the comeback.
close
Yeah.
second. I am so excited about Gwen's comeback to triathlon. Really, God, this excites me. And all I hope, and I before I go to bed every night, I sit down and I go, dear Lord, all I ask is that Gwen falls back in love with triathlon and we see her go on to not just do short course, but step up and start doing 70.3 Ironman racing. Because fuck me, I think she'd be good at it.
Well, I mean, I'm interested to know. I haven't seen many interviews with her or anything like that, or
Neither.
any content that she's done. So I'm keen to know whether the love is there, or whether she's doing it because she's like, okay, well, it's the avenue down marathon hasn't quite worked out, so I'll go back to the one where I know I can, or I have had achievement in the past, success in the past, and I'd like to see whether I can do it again. I'd like to ask her is the enjoyment, what's the enjoyment level like? Because that would be the deciding factor, I think, as to whether she goes on to the longer course stuff or not.
Again, you look at that run, and I spoke a lot last year about how Ash Jenner's going to do so well at longer stuff because of her run. Fucking hell, Gwen Jorgensen can run. It's a very, very, very exciting prospect. And again, it's interesting. I at this point, I would hate to be an American female right now trying to qualify for the Olympics. Let me put it that way. It is. We saw the heartbreak a couple of years ago,
especially with their arbitrary, weird, archaic qualifying system as well. I mean, the idea of trying to qualify for the Olympics is hard enough, but when you don't know what you need to do to qualify because they've got this weird system where they can choose whoever they want, it must be a weight that you carry throughout the season. So yeah, I can't imagine.
At this stage, what are we, a year and a bit out? If I had to pick who I would like to see picked on the American team, purely, it would be Taylor Knibb and Taylor Spivey. They would be the two that I'd like to see go to the Olympics. I think Taylor Spivey, after what happened to her last time, deserves the spot. Plus, again, she's a fucking incredible athlete. Yeah, mate, I'm very happy.
I would say the same, and I'd have Jorgensen as a wild card in there as well because I want to see her go.
Summer Rappaport, Katie Zafiras, anything like that?
Yes, Summer just, I think she's lovely. I don't think she's got the...
But
she hasn't got the chops on the bike in my mind. If it's Europe is by no means guaranteed to be. It could be a wet, windy day. Europe can do these things to a race, and in those sort of conditions, she just doesn't have the sort of ability on the bike to stay with a pack in dodgy, choppy conditions.
Yeah, if I had to, if you said name an athlete and tell me their weakness off the top of your mind, if you said Summer Rapport, it's like bike handling skills. She
Hmm.
just really, really lacks that the technical aspect of it, and I think you're right. That's I guess the factor. Yeah, but Gwen Jorgensen, third place, first race back. I'm excited to see how this year pans out. I hope to see her on some WTCS start lists. That's where I'm really keen to see how she stacks up. And again, I know that she's only been back for a few months. Like imagine in 6 months when she's doing these races against the Floras and the GTBs and the Maya Kingmars and those guys. I think it'll be very interesting and something that I'm very excited about. Speaking of short course racing, Abu Dhabi World Triathlon Championship Series 2023 kicks off today, actually, for me. Time of recording, it is on Friday. Mate, how good is this going to be?
It's going to be good, mate. The racing will happen in Abu Dhabi on Friday, March the 3rd at the Yas Marina Circuit. And the women's race will begin at 12 p.m. local time, which is 8 o'clock in the morning GMT. And the men's race 2 hours later at 2 p.m. local time at 10 a.m. GMT. It's the first race of the WTCS 2023 series, and it's held over the sprint distance with a 750-meter lap of the marina before the athletes run 250 meters to T1. From there, they complete 5 laps of 4 kilometers on the bike, running 2 laps of 2.5 kilometers, and then heading down the finishing straight. So, and it's broadcast over all your standards, wherever you get your triathlon in the world, it'll be there, as opposed to the Ironman race, which won't be. If you're desperate for some live content, this is the one. And I do love the first race of the season, because it's the one that you all tune into to see where people are and see where it's like the first Formula One race of the year, isn't it? It's just interesting to see where people shake out and where that dust lands once they've dusted themselves off after the off season. Has Hayden Wild had one too many donuts? We'll see.
He doesn't look
see.
like it. I see some of his videos. I think, fucking hell, have a cheeseburger, Hayden. You're looking a bit skinny, mate. Come on, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing we sort of touched on right at the start of this is the obvious news that Christian Blumenfeld will not be appearing at this race. I was very keen to see, again, looking at the back end of last year, how Christian and Gustav sort of returned to short course, with particularly Christian with those 2 top 10 finishes where he was at here. Like, I'm very curious to see where they're at. And I guess similarly for that reason now, I am like, Gustav is the guy that I'm going to be watching pretty closely today to see how he is going, because we've had a lot of question marks over Gustav's inability to perform at short course. Like, this is a sprint race too, so even shorter than Olympic distance. How is that decision to go to short course going to go? I'm curious, but
yeah, I mean, we've got some names in here. We've got Morgan Peterson, Jelle Gaines, Alex Yee, Hayden Wild, Vincent Louis, Dorian Connings, Gustav Eden, Jake Birtwistle, Carl Smith. It's a who's who on the men's side and on the women's, but we're talking about the men's at the moment. And so, Henry Schumann, is Henry going there?
Henry's there, mate.
Yeah.
Henry got it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
do you want a little? I can tell you a little bit about the fuckery of World Triathlon. If like I'm not very happy with World Triathlon at the moment. Firstly, anyway, he couldn't get a spot, mate. He was put on a wait list, and they're like, you don't have your ranking's not high enough. He's like, oh, can I get a wild card? Like, we gave you one for Abu Dhabi last year. You're not getting one for this year. So he only found out, like, Henry flew to Abu Dhabi for this race without a start, hoping that the wait list would get, like, he'd get on the start, and he did. He got on like 2 days ago. But fucking hell, it's this bureaucracy shit with this is fucking not very good. I think it needs to be.
No.
Anyway, yes, he's on this, and so's Tyler. Tyler after also the fuckery of last year. I'm keen to see both of those 2 boys perform pretty well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, we've got Leo Berger there as well, reigning champion.
Ooh,
I didn't mention his name. So I'm intrigued to see how it shakes out. I would like to see Hayden do well, because I'm a big fan of that man. He's a good bloke, and I'd like to see him start the season on the front foot. But again, I'd like to see Leo underline his world championship of last year and come out of the blocks firing.
Well, I think if we look back to last year's Abu Dhabi, end of last year, start of this year, Hayden probably looked like Hayden had a huge year last year, and he looked a bit tired. So I'm expecting it to be fresh. But as I've said a lot, the difference we have with this race now, or we're going to have this year with the races to last year, is we've suddenly got the swim power of a Henry, a Vince, a Hauser. We've got those really good front pack swimmer guys there that I think is going to, again, change the dynamic of the races to how we saw it last year. I'm really, really, really curious to watch Morgan Pearson race this because, again, think about how he ran through the field last year. If he can stay a little bit closer to the front, because, again, the Gustavs and the Christians and these guys who are going to be, I know not this weekend, but they're pushing that bike up a lot quicker too, like the Haydens, those guys. I think we could really see the Yees and the Pearsons sort of do some pretty incredible, and the Wilds do some crazy, and Berger run stuff.
What do you think about Birtwistle coming off the back of his Tasmania win?
No, again, I think Jake's great, but I just don't. Again, I'm not trying to be harsh. I feel like Jake's best is, especially at short course, is probably behind him. His best at short course is probably behind him a little bit. I'd love to be proven wrong. I think Jake Birtwistle is an incredible athlete. I've said it 1,000 times. I just question whether the hunger's there. We haven't seen him really feature at a WTCS event for a long time. So
no, I'm intrigued to see how Carl Smith goes.
Same, and Hauser. I think Matt Hauser. Yeah. I keep talking about the people we feel are on the precipice. Matt Hauser to me is one that we saw him do so well at Super League despite all the bullshit that he went through. A lot of people had bad luck last year. Matt Hauser could be, he's very good at the short stuff. This is a sprint race.
He's a good bloke, isn't he? He's a good bloke as well. Matt
Balanced
Hauser,
athlete,
nice
mate.
Man.
Good swimmer, biker, runner. Like he doesn't. If I had to give him a weakness, it is probably the run a little bit, but that's probably just because he's always, again, dealing with all the fuckery and the stuff on the bike and stuff. But there's so many athletes on this list, mate, that could, again, I don't know. And I think we'll know a lot more about where the chips fall, the cards fall, whatever after this. But you have to do it, mate. Who are you picking? Who's going to win this race? Come on, give me your...
Oof, mate, that's a hard one, isn't it? Isn't it a hard one? It's a hard one. Going into this race without any real idea of form and making me pick a...
Yeah, come on. Come on, do it, mate. There's literally nothing on Vincent Louis. Good shout, actually. Good, very good shout. Very, very good shout. God, now I had that whole time you were thinking to try to think of one myself, and now I'm doing the same thing. I'm on the spot going shit. Who it is? I'm going to go with Matt Hauser, Australian, mate.
Okay, that's a good shout as well. I think with some of the performances we saw from him last year, it would be cool to see him start the season on the front foot. I just think we're going to see a resurgence of Vince Louis this year. I think he had, he had a bit of an interesting one last year, and I think we're going to see him coming back. And we're putting his mark on the WTCS just in time for the Paris Olympics next year, where he's going to take gold in a stunning display of winning a gold medal at his home Olympics.
That is something I would love to see. But looking at this list, I could honestly sit here and I could say Leo Berger could win, Alex Yee could win, Hayden Wild could win, Vincent Louis could win, Yellow Gaines could win or podium, Hauser could win, Morgan Pearson could win.
You put me in a box. Like, don't let me watch the race, and then just next week you tell me that Gustav won or Yee won or Wild won. I just believe you.
But it's good, isn't it? Like, that's what I mean. I love the fact that, like, to me, it's I enjoy talking about the races where we sit there and go, shit, who are we going to pick compared to Slaughter Phillip.
Without question, it's more interesting. But we'll talk about the women's side in a minute. But this is the problem with triathlon, isn't it? Because it's such a sorry, there's loads of paperwork falling off over here. Because it's such a participation-driven interest sport, and not more people participate at the longer course stuff than they do the short course stuff. We find statistically as podcasters that people are more interested from the numbers in us talking about the longer course stuff. But you just don't get, as a podcaster, as two talking heads within the sport, you don't get on a race by race basis the fields and the interest to talk about. So I prefer talking about the short course stuff when it comes to builds up and predictions and what's going to happen. A few races a year, the long course really lights up because you get those championship races with all the names. But most of the time, I think from a content point of view, it's more interesting going into these shorter races with the WTS side of who's going to win. It's like watching Formula One. It's great.
That's exactly what it's like. It is exactly like watching Formula One, and that's why listeners. Because James is right. Every time we put a WTCS title on a podcast, the downloads are significantly less. They are less than they are for long course. Here is your chance to change, because I'm not going to put WTCS in the title to trick you all. We got you. Here we are. We're talking about short course. We fooled you all. Watch it this year. Like, here is your opportunity to jump in at round one and follow the race this year. You are going to see some of the most exciting racing. If you have watched Drive to Survive and you're in on the whole concept of a league and the people This is triathlon's version of it. People who say that it's a what is it, a wet run, bullshit. This racing is exciting once you actually understand the dynamics that happen and the way that the bike. Get on it. I would hope to see all of you guys who are listening right now. If you're listening right now when I release the episode, roughly, you've got a couple of hours till the race kicks off. Put your iPod down, put your phone down, go to Triathlon Live, sign up, watch this race, and then come back next week and go, geez, Tim and James, thank you so much. Thank you for forcing me. What do you do that?
And then Google, request more.
Hey Google, turn on triathlonlive.com. Do that thing where you make their, or hey Siri, turn on triathlonlive.com.
And let us know you have as well. Let us know. Yeah. Let us know. Request more content. You know, we need to build up a base of support for WTS. We're not saying there isn't, but, you know, we, from a metrics point of view, from a numbers point of view, if we have an interview with a long course athlete or we put the long course event in the title, it gets more views because people don't seem to be as interested or driven by WTCS racing because they think it's just a boring procession, but it's really not. It is the absolute pinnacle of some of the best athletes in the world racing at the very limit. So, you know, give it some attention and go after it. So let's talk about the women's side, Tim.
One more thing quickly, just before we do is I want to see them do what they did at the Arena Games and get Lionel Sanders in one of these races.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking, mate. Like literally, World Triathlon, hear me now. Get Lionel a wild card and get him in one of these races because that's what's going to get the eyeballs on it. And yeah, people might go, oh, Lionel, once you're in, you might stay around. Women's racing.
Flora Duffy's not racing, mate.
I know. She's injured. Has a knee injury.
Yeah, I didn't realize until I'd read that earlier on when I was prepping for this broadcast. I didn't realize she had a knee injury.
Me neither. I had no idea actually. So
it's a crying shame, and I hope it's something that she brushes off quickly because her inclusion and addition to any season of racing is something is worth its weight in gold. So hope she recovers fast. But you know, Georgia Taylor Brown is racing, and many others are as well. We've got Lisa Tersch, Annabelle Knoll, Marlene Gomez-Gogol, Nina Elm, Taylor Spivey, Summer Rappaport, Kristen Casper, Leonor Perot, Cassandra Beaugrand, various others, Sophie Coldwell, Beth Potter. So it's a who's who on the women's side. I'll
be honest, you started naming those athletes, and I'm like, he's chosen a weird selection to go with. Because I would have gone. I actually had Georgia Taylor Brown, Taylor Spivey, Cassandra Beaugrand, Sophie Coldwell, Beth Potter, Leonie Perriot, Katie Wolf, and then interestingly, we've got Katie Zafira's back on the start list as well. That's the other one.
and the Arena Games Triathlon Montreal winner, Gina Serrano. So that adds a little bit of interest. If you're leaping from watching the Arena Games into watching the first WTCS race, you'll be interested to see how she lines up out of the virtual arena in the real world.
What are we expecting here, mate? Again, putting you on the spot, what you pick?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have a level of consistency I don't normally have, and I'm gonna say I think Cassandra Beaugrand, mate.
That's my pick. God damn.
I think we're gonna see a real resurgence in the French triathlon world this year as we build through the season towards Paris. And I think Cassandra Beaugrand is the kind of athlete who could come out of the blocks firing on the first race of the season and put some of the performance she's had of late have not been quite as consistent as we expected her to a few years ago to bed and really have a good race.
In a lot of ways, this women's race, I'm more interested in this women's race than I am in the men's race because we see the competitiveness for spots for two countries in particular. Australia, you can walk onto the team. The UK, Team GB and Team USA for the women's is going to be very fascinating to watch over the next couple of years. We've seen it. So, like looking at this, some of those British names like Georgia Taylor Brown, Sophie Coldwell, Beth Potter, and even Katie Wolf, who we know is the under-23 champion last year. It's almost like there's races inside the races this year for me to sort of follow. Beth Potter, I know she's gunning for that Olympic spot. Is she there yet? Because she made some fucking leaps and bounds last year, mate. Like she really went to another level that I probably didn't even think she could get to, if I'm honest. So she impressed me a lot last year. Georgia Taylor Brown is Georgia Taylor Brown. You know, she is just consistently good. There's no Flora Duffy, but I'm very curious. And then in the women's race, same thing. You know, Taylor Spivey, as I sort of said, Summer Rappaport, those guys. I am going to pick. I agree that it's Cassandra Beaugrand, and I think we're going to see the French fucking kill it this year because they have that home Olympics. I'm going to go on a bit further than you. I'm going to pick a podium. And I'm going to say we're going to see Cassandra Beaugrand, Leonie Perriot, and we're going to see Taylor Spivey on the podium. That's my pick.
Okay, that's interesting. So you're making me pick a podium?
No, you don't have to. I was going to pick Cassandra, and then you did. No, and fuck, I've got to go one step further. Again,
yeah,
I
think Beaugrand is. I think, like you say, we've got that carrot of the Paris Olympics next year. I think we're going to see the French team just going up through the gears as the year. And it's
unfolds. A shorter race. It's a sprint race too, which again I always think suits Cassandra better. She's not
exactly.
She's
hence my confidence in Vince Louis for this race.
If this was a Olympic distance, I'd be picking Georgia Taylor Brown, I think. But the fact that it's a sprint is why I'd lean towards a Cassandra Beaugrand. And again, I speak so highly. Every year you hear me say the same thing, because I think Cassandra has the most potential. She's such a good athlete, and when she sort of gets everything right, because she's either great or she's fucking shit. Like there's no real in between with Cassandra Beaugrand. But when she's on, she's fucking on, and I hope she's on for the rest of this year.
Cool,
mate. We're done.
We
did it. We did it. If people want to find out more about MX Endurance, all that jazz, what do they need to do?
If you want to find out more about MX Endurance, head to mxendurance.com or search MX Endurance on Facebook or at MX Endurance on Twitter or Instagram. If you want to follow me, I'm at bale.james85 on Instagram, or you can follow Tim at tford14 on Instagram. Please jump onto iTunes, give this show a review. It's very easy and it's very helpful. If you like what we're doing, tell a friend, help us grow. If you've got any suggestions, guests, comments, or criticisms, then DM Tim directly on his Instagram account.
Please
and then copy that DM and send it on Twitter and Facebook as well.
Yeah, at bale.james85 on Twitter. That's the place to go. Again, it's so funny. I put up a tweet now, and it's like always, there's like 10 people in Triathlon Twitter. I'm actually sick of Twitter.
Yeah, same.
And I have 90% of them muted. Like I put up that tweet down, and it's like, this comment is by an account you've muted. This comment is by an account you've muted. This comment is by, oh, fuck, here we go. Yeah, thanks, mate. Again, guys, jump on, put fucking anything. Give us your race picks. Tell us we're dickheads, whatever it is. Get some reviews. We haven't had reviews for a while, so that would be a big help. Jimbo, we'll be back next week talking about the races. A pleasure as always, mate. Thank you very much.
Cheerio.